Ooh, PHNX Cardinals live on a Wednesday. Welcome in, Johnny and Bo, hanging out. Become a subscriber today. It's your go-to. It's your premier Arizona Cardinal podcast. Like and subscribe. Leave us a 5-star wherever you get your programming. Become a diehard. Go PHNX.com. Pick up a free hat and or t-shirt every single year. You're a diehard. I'm a diehard for this man to my right, Bo Brack, handsome as ever, in the studio, rocking the flannel. It's like 80 degrees here in the valley.
Yeah, but I've been inside all day, just grinding out content for the fine folks out there that follow PHNX Sports and PHNX Cardinals on social media. Just getting after it, you know. And I'm a '90s boy. I'm a '90s alternative boy. I've got my grunge, and I threw on the flannel. I just thought that's what I was going to go for.
You got the 90s grunge look. I got the Sean Hunter hair, circa Boy Meets World. I'm told a lot. So we're ready to rock and roll on this Cardinal podcast today. Teased it in the show tweet. Got some news that we'll break here in just a little bit pertaining to what the Cardinals plan to do with one Paris Johnson Jr. But a little nugget came out today pertaining to DJ Humphries. And won't the Cardinals release the longtime veteran stalwart left tackle, Bo, for the Arizona Cardinals? And we're very much of the mindset of the camp that, yes, they will. The Cardinals do plan to release their 2015 first rounder out of Florida, which is unfortunate, but, I mean, comes at a cost, and he was expensive.
Yeah, he was. And it's the ugly side of the NFL. It's the business side of the NFL where you've got your longest tenured player, a guy that has done nothing but buy into the new culture with Jonathan Gannon and Monty Ossenfort have instilled on the organization, and tears his ACL. And I'm sure there's probably going to be conversations and negotiations regardless this offseason with DJ Humphries. But JG, a huge fan of Hump, but unfortunately not going to be available. And the Arizona Cardinals it's a football organization. It's not, unfortunately, a charity where they're going to be in the business of just handing out millions upon millions of dollars for a guy who's not going to play. So when you look at the Cardinals and who could be a potential cut candidate, our good friend Brad Spielberger over at Pro Football Focus compiled a list of all 32 teams' top cut candidate, and DJ was the one that was highlighted by the Cardinals. So, I mean, as far as the impact, it's about $7 million in dead money, but close to $16 million in cap savings. And when you're the Cardinals and you've got a full roster revamp, you're going into year 2 of a rebuild, you need pretty much all the cap money you can get available right there at your disposal.
Chris saying DJ's going to be missed. Absolutely. Dylan Richards saying our only NFC Championship player left. Kind of sad. It is kind of sad. And here's, what I'll admit on this show is I wasn't a big believer in Humphries at the beginning of last year.
A little bit of it. I mean, NFC champ. He didn't play that year. He was drafted in 2015. He was on the roster. Okay. He wasn't active. He didn't play.
He was inactive. Yeah.
It was Jared Veldier was holding down the left tackle spot at that point.
I'll never forget. I was in St. Louis at the Edward Jones Dome watching Arians' team play the Rams, and Humphries would go out before the game as a rookie, and the offensive line and Arians would put him through workouts like in front of everybody without pads on, just going through like pass protection sets. No wonder Humphries hates Bruce Arians. They really made him eat it his first year, and who knows, maybe that made him a better pro. I don't know, but you can make an argument he has been the most consistent first-round pick, as low as that bar has been since certainly Kyler Murray and Patrick Peterson. I mean, it's a loss, and the Cardinals were not prepared for Humphries not to be on the team this year. Like he was going to be on the roster. He was going to be in the mix, starting again at left tackle, and that's something I did not see coming early in the year. I'm like, he's getting blown up. Didn't have a good first quarter of the season. And then I thought, coincidentally, he played great at the end of the year. I know, folks at PFF, Brad and company, like he had a career low, like 62 grade. I actually thought he was pretty solid at the end of the year. I remember we were doing trending up, trending down in like November, early December. I'm like, Humphries is surprising me. You have to keep him even at his price tag. And then what happens? I mean, he blew out his Achilles or his ACL?
It was his knee. So he had an
His knee.
ACL tear, and then he had an MCL injury as well, which they needed to kind of heal before they could even get to the ACL surgery, which, knocked his timeline back even more so.
Yeah.
Sweet baby Shane Diefenbach jumping into our chat.
You'll see him next week.
What are we smoking on?
Maybe on this program from the Combine. We'll see.
Yeah, he's
Might
gonna
get
rejoin.
our videos demonetized. We'll check that out at the time. But I think it's unfortunate, but I also think it expedites what they were going to do anyway. Like
For
the
sure.
Cardinals were not going to look at this draft class and say, we have DJ Humphries, so we're going to ignore these tackles, whether it's 4, 27, or 35. Like they were going to plan for it.
The writing was on the wall. It was going to be inevitable as far as them drafting his successor, whether he was going to be in-house or now it just feels like he won't be. And it, like, when you think about DJ Humphries, like you can kind of be wax poetic about it from like what we talked about, kind of humble beginning, right? It goes from 24th overall to basically a red shirt where the organization's just like, what are we going to do with this guy? They nicknamed him Knee Deep. The coaching staff called DJ Humphries Knee Deep because that's how far you had to put your foot up his ass to get your message across. That was his nickname. And then next thing you know, fast forward 8 years later, he's a leader of this organization. He's been your franchise left tackle, and he has been, outside of Kyler Murray, he was actually the first round pick before Kyler Murray to receive an extension under Steve Keim.
Crazy.
And then he got another one. And, I know that he's not, Orlando Pace. He's not, some of the stalwarts of the left tackle position, but he's been steady. And that's really, as you said, relative to the organization, they hadn't even had that. So, DJ Humphries, it's bittersweet for the organization to be in a position to find his successor in a rich draft class, in a deep draft class for the tackle position. But at the same time, for it to be a necessary evil for him to have to get cut and pretty much have to think about what the next step is for him and his potential, if he wants to play again or if this is the end of the road.
Yeah. And it's really unfortunate for him. Like, I don't think he's going to play at all this year. I don't think the Cardinals think he's going to play at all this year. So, I mean, he's made, thankfully for him, a good amount of money and he's gotten, as you said, multiple extensions, but like, you don't blow out your knee in the way that the fashion he did and the timing of when it happened. And you're that big of a person, human being, and you're over 30 years old. Like, you don't just rehab and rally back in like 6 to 8 months. I hope for his sake he does. I think probably the play is like he's out all this year and then probably does some tryouts with teams and takes physicals like next spring and signs somewhere else. That's probably what's going to happen. I would be shocked if he played this year. I hope he proves me wrong like he did this past season, overcoming his age, in Austin Ford and Gannon's first year, but that's over. So what's the plan then at the tackle position for the Arizona Cardinals? And we've kind of alluded to it. Again, this is what this show is prepared to tell you. We feel pretty confident about this, despite speculation otherwise. We're told that the plan right now is to keep Paris Johnson Jr. at right tackle. Again, they are looking for a left tackle, not a right tackle. That's something that this podcast is bringing to you exclusively. They plan on, unless something changes, and I'm not sticking my foot in my mouth with this, the plan right now today, here in late February before the Combine, is to keep Paris Johnson Jr. at right tackle, which means drafting a left tackle, which means signing a Band-Aid left tackle. Kelvin Beacham's the swing tackle. Paris Johnson Jr. is staying at right tackle. So knowing that, okay, you need now 2 starters on the left side. You need a left tackle, you need a left guard. We kind of divulged in a little bit of speculation yesterday. I think probably the play is sign a guard for good money, a quality guard, a veteran, and then draft a left tackle some point in the 2024 NFL draft.
It's a good plan. I mean, normally it wouldn't be. It's like, oh, you're going to roll the dice. And as it stands right now, your best opportunity. I mean, you can make the case, and we have 4th overall, but your best opportunity is 27th overall. And there's going to be players at the position right there for you to select because of how deep the tackle class is. And I think you can look at some guards that might make sense, or even some players that could shift from tackle to guard. But this is a pretty decent, like, it's not all, it's very rarely like a good offseason to have to revamp an entire side of an offensive line. Mm-hmm. But I think the Cardinals are in a good, not great, you're never in a great position, but a decent spot to revamp this thing. And we'll see, how they kind of approach free agency. Like, will they find somebody to hold down that guard position? What do they look at in-house? Like, it just feels like this is a team that is just not content moving forward, despite, what many people perceive, and we talked about it yesterday, as positive results, maybe the most positive results from any position group on the team last year in the offensive line. They're always looking to improve. They got consistent effort from those guys, from Will Hernandez to Paris Johnson Jr., as you mentioned, in DJ Humphries and Yelda Froholt. So the Arizona Cardinals are going to continue to tweak this thing until they get something that they deem suitable to protect their $230.5 million investment.
Yeah, I see a lot of people sharing their emotions, which I would say are mixed to this news. As you suck down one of my Capri Suns, how dare you, in studio? But
it's strawberry kiwi.
Yeah, it's that's refreshing. The best flavor. Try to power through here. Paris Johnson Jr. has been studying Lane Johnson tape. We knew that already. Lane plays right tackle. Now they had stalwarts at left tackle, but I think the Cardinals view right tackle and left tackle almost as equals in today's NFL. And Kyler Murray is so mobile. I've made the argument time and time again, the interior of the offensive line for Kyler is just as important as your edge tackles. So I think here's where it gets dicey is, well, who's holding down left tackle until you get to the draft? And then does that make you and leave you vulnerable for reaching for a player? Because the kid out of New England, Owenu, who can play guard and can play tackle, he's only ever played on the right side. He's played a good amount of guard, right guard, and he's played some right tackle. He hasn't played left tackle before. So it's like, is that an option? I don't know. You probably kick him over to left guard and be in pretty decent shape, but people are asking, does that mean you have to take Joe Alt or Alu Fashanu at 4? No, I still believe, based on what we've heard, that they're going to take Marvin Harrison Jr. at 4. And we're going to talk more about Marvin here a little bit. But let's say you take Marvin at 4. You don't have a left tackle yet. I think it expedites your sense of urgency to go from 27 and go up and get somebody, whether it's Mims or Tyler Guyton can play left tackle. I mean, most of these tackles in the first round can play left tackle. So let me repeat that. Most of the guys that we're projecting, Fuega, all these guys have time and experience at left tackle. And so I would imagine that that's going to be a big priority. So for those of us that are hoping and praying for a defensive tackle or an edge rusher at 27, I would say that the priority remains receiver to offensive tackle, assuming Marvin's there.
Yeah, and Marvin's the key. I think Marvin is the absolute key, and we'll get into the wild card New England Patriots here down the line, and there's still the unknown what they're going to do. But if Marvin Harrison Jr. is there, it's easy for you. You make the pick. You run the card up to the podium. You select the playmaker out of Ohio State, 6'4", son of Marvin Harrison, Hall of Famer, and you make the selection 20 years after you selected Larry Fitzgerald. It's just that's how it's going to go, and Cardinals fans should be absolutely elated by that. But then you lean on the strength of this draft outside the receiver positions, tackle position, and I think Monty Ossenfort, as I see people in the chat asking, like, do you trade up? I think Monty Ossenfort is going to, just like last year, he's going to keep his finger on the pulse of this thing and kind of he's doing his homework on teams that could be in the market to draft a tackle and see if he needs to get up ahead of some teams. And obviously it's not going to be for an Alt and probably not for a Fashanu, but if they like Fuaga, maybe they get up. Maybe if he has a slide and Ossenfort views an opportunity, maybe he does utilize all that draft capital that he has, or sticking and picking and just getting the best guy. I mean, there's so many names, and Tyler Guyton was the right tackle, as you said, playing for a left-handed quarterback. I talked to Guyton. I was standing right there as he had his media scrum. He said the really nice things about Kyler Murray, but he also said, what are they talking to you? What position are they talking to you about playing most often? He said left tackle.
Yeah.
So look, I know he just played at Oklahoma at right tackle, but people view him as a franchise caliber left tackle. So did Oklahoma. If they had a right-handed quarterback, he's flipped over to the other side.
They put him at right tackle to protect the blind side of their quarterback.
Yeah.
So I love the energy in the chat. Hit that like button. Let's get to 300 likes here on a football Wednesday. Eddie's saying, isn't a left tackle the safer pick? I think Marvin Harrison Jr. is about as safe as you can get. But I will say, I think Alt is a safer pick than Malik Neighbors, in my opinion. People can disagree with that. That's fine. Alu Fashanu is, and I say with this respectfully, he's more of a finesse tackle, but he's the better pass protector. I think Alt has the highest ceiling of any offensive lineman in this draft. He's 20 years old. He turns 21 during the draft process. But he's 20
Take him
years
off the
old.
board.
Yeah, I just
6'8",
it's like
from an offensive line factory in Notre Dame.
I mean, he was clearly the best, and he's been the best
Notre
for
Dame
2.5 years.
Turns those guys out. Like they recruit them, they develop them, and they turn them into starting offensive linemen in the NFL, and it's great. So, yeah, I mean, left tackle in any other situation is a safer pick, right? But it's like when you have Marvin Harrison Jr. And he's as safe as it gets at the wide receiver position, and then you start to go with it. It's like, okay, Malik Neighbors, like he's cake right now. It's delicious, right? But when you're eating your vegetables and it's pool season, you take your shirt off, you got something that resembles a little bit of a six pack. Where Malik Neighbors, you don't have that beach bod because it's fun, tastes good, but it's not as good for you at the end of the day.
LVL7 or you need an elite weapon for K1. I agree with that, but they got two big needs on offense now. You number one alpha wide receiver, need a left tackle. Kyler Murray is really encouraged with how Austin Ford is building this team, and I think you should be especially encouraged by the work that they did up front on the offensive line last year. If we're sitting here as a spectator, media fans, whatever, and saying, man, the offensive line looks great, they're really coaching those guys up, and then Bo, to your point, internally they're saying, this wasn't good enough. We were patchworking it together. It shows you they have an expectation. They're not hanging on for dear life, Kime time style, signing Rodney Hudson, coaxing him out of retirement, overpaying him, shipping 2/3 to the Las Vegas Raiders. Like this is their plan. Their plan is Marvin Harrison Jr., number one rated player on their board. Then if he's not available, and I tweeted this out last night, I think Marvin's the exception. I think Marvin, you get him at 4. If he's not there, you either take Alt or you tried to trade down and get Alt, Fuega, or Fashanu. I think that's the best case scenario. If you can get a team like Atlanta or the Titans or somebody at the back half of the top 10 to trade down with you, like what you did last year. And they almost seem like they want to replicate the recipe from last year. And I see people in the chat asking, could they get Marvin, then trade up from 27 for Alt or Fashanu? No, they're not in a position. They're not 2 players away. As much as I would love that from a content perspective, and I love these players, and we were robbed of that because Houston was much better. They are in a position where, okay, we got to take our vitamins, eat our vegetables here. We can have one cheat meal, even though Marvin's not a cheat meal. But then we got to get back to what helped us win games this year. And when they were cooking, it was because of those 5 offensive linemen up front that were paving the way for Josh Dobbs and Michael Carter Jr. I mean, they won games they weren't supposed to because of their offensive line.
Yeah, I mean, they were the ground and pound. With James Conner operating at the level that he was humming, man. I mean, it was a beautiful thing to see. And if you get guys that they view as talented enough players to block for him, whether it's, pass or run block, that's scary to think about. Like what Drew Petzing and Jonathan Gannon and Monty Ossenfort, like the offensive brain trust now of this organization, like that's scary to think about because, man, they were putting together some pretty impressive days on the ground and then open up things for Kyler Murray. It's like, you don't need elite receivers sometimes with that game plan. You just don't. But like when you've got the likes of potential Guyton being there And I'm talking about like a mini trade up. I'm talking about like from 27 to within the 20s, right? If you view like, okay, I really like Tyler Guyton, I got to go up and get him. Maybe I'll flip package one of those 3 third-round picks to get up. I think that would be worthy of it. But yeah, not completely giving up selling the farm just to get up to get one of those top guys, because the bottom, like with guys who are fringe first rounders or end of the round first rounders, from your Jordan Morgans to Tyler Guytons to Graham Bartons, I mean, those are some pretty good options for the Arizona Cardinals to have. That's where DJ Humphries was selected, and I think you're going to get more ready to play type prospects.
DJ Humphries, left tackle, where he was selected. I see a lot of people like pushing back, saying you got to push Paris over to left tackle. I'm telling you what we're hearing they're going to do. I'm not telling you I would do that. I think it makes sense to move Paris over. I was surprised to hear behind the scenes that the plan is to keep him right tackle. So let me be clear about that. Like, what we may think is right or wrong sometimes is very different with what they plan to do, but they're with Paris every day. And I think they view this tackle class as special. I know we do, Bo, and you're able to add a player. I mean, you're putting a lot of stock into somebody being available to you at 27 if you take Marvin at 4, but you can get creative. You can go up for somebody. But again, if you're just joining us, like Paris, the plan is right now today for Paris Johnson Jr. to play right tackle in 2024. And if he's a right tackle this year, he's a right tackle permanently. Like, this is your one chance to move him over to left tackle with a clear glaring hole and a weakness there without an heir apparent. And if they're not doing that anyway, they're keeping him a right tackle. So if you hear otherwise, like, remember this podcast first to tell you Paris is staying a right tackle.
I think the organization's like, they like the continuity.
They do.
Right? They
like
want
he and Will Hernandez next to each other. That's for sure.
Yeah, it was one of the best tag team duos in the NFL. You loved what they were doing on the right side, right? They were just two big men moving people around. They got a lot of dog in them. They are like just A students in dogalytics. I mean, you love it, like, as far as what they bring to the table. And I think people will say that Jonathan Gannon took some things from Philly. Like, I think he took, Paris Johnson being the next Lane Johnson, even though he doesn't make comps. Like, he liked having the stability, because some teams will just like, oh, we figured out left tackle, and then right tackle's not a throwaway, but they don't emphasize it as much. And JG understands the value of that. Of you need, because you're gonna have every team now, it feels like, has a premier edge on both sides. So to have a guy like Paris Johnson be able to hold it down potentially for the foreseeable future is huge. And then to really lean into the strength of this draft, I think that's just the route to go. Like, if it was different, if we were sitting here and it's last year's tackle class, and you're sitting there and you're trying to figure out like who could be there beyond Darnell Wright, then you probably don't do this, right?
What we weren't even sure he could play tackle.
Right.
It was like, oh, is he a guard? I mean, last year, Wright and Paris Johnson Jr. were the two gems, Paris especially. And then there was a dramatic drop off. The Cardinals this year, like, they're flushed. It's like they're flushed with cash. They're flushed with tackles to be able to pursue. Dylan Richards saying, do we extend Froldhold? Is he our center for good? Ask me after the draft. If they draft interior offensive lineman, I think Froldhold could be year to year. Like, I say that because, like, we've been conditioned. Froldhold was great. He's got 1 year left on his contract. You got to extend him. He's 26. What if they draft Jackson Powers Johnson at 35? Then he's probably off the team. Or it's going to be really interesting. They want an offensive line, though, built of first and second rounders, ass kickers, to be able to support Kyler Murray. And here's what I'll say about K1. A lot of people say clamoring for weapons, and he wanted CeeDee Lamb. Who has Kyler Murray pushed for, formerly of Steve Keim, and then 1 year with Monty Ossenford? Creed Humphries, Tristan Wirfs, Paris Johnson Jr. Like, Kyler's really smart, and people don't give him credit. He wants linemen. Yeah. And he wanted his best friend, CeeDee Lamb, which, how can you blame him? Like, behind the scenes, he'd probably tell Monty Ossenford, we traded for Hollywood. Probably should have just grabbed Tyler Lindenbaum. Probably should have just gotten the center when that went down. Kyler is very, very confident in his ability to take whatever receivers you have and elevate them. And he
Yeah.
never, and Bo, you were with him every week, never threw his receivers under the bus this year.
No, not at all. And, he's sitting there and telling Steve Keim he likes Tristan Wirfs. He wants this sturdy metal fork because that's what you need. You need a fork.
And then what happened?
And you need a knife. And then Keim was like, I got you this plastic spork. What do you think about this? He's like, well, what am I going to do?
I got you one of those frothers for your coffee. Remember those? Yeah, I got you one of those.
He's like, why don't you let me worry about the team building?
I got you a pipe cleaner to try to cut your steak with. Oh, okay,
yeah.
Great. Yeah. So Paris Johnson Jr., the plan is staying at right tackle, and we fully expect the Cardinals to release DJ Humphries this offseason. Not going to be on the team because he's not going to play. There's no scenario in which they keep him. Like, you don't keep him, as you said, this isn't charity, to just be on the team as great of a locker room guy is. If he was making like no money, maybe you could say stash him. They can't stash him. He's making too much money. He's not going to be available.
Right. How dare you, Brian? You can't make Bo a better receiver, though, to be fair, Johnny. Kyler can't elevate my game.
That cuts deep. That cuts very deep.
I was wide open. He had perfect protection. I was wide open. It's on me.
Yes. Patrick T, $4.99 super chat. Thank you so much, friend of the program. Patrick, we're a run-first team now, and that right side was so aggressive. Don't fix what's broke. Time to build the left side. Perfectly said. That's exactly what they're going to do. But Marvin Harrison Jr., it complicates things just a smidge, because I think what we thought initially was after they beat Philadelphia, Marvin is gone. That's not a real dream anymore. It's not a reality that we're going to experience. We're back to Joe Alt, like we were for a lot of the season. And then the teams ended up falling where they did, and everybody needs a quarterback, and the Patriots are a hot mess. We're going to talk about that here in a second. I do want to get to this comment here from Travis. Keep up the great work. I watch the show every day from Pittsburgh, or from PA, Pennsylvania. I currently have COVID. Oh no, for the first time. So I'm praying the Cardinals get Marvin Harrison Jr. Well, Travis, rest up, hydrate, be well, my friend. Thank you for the support. We appreciate that. Tricky thing to don't mess around with it. Get your rest, my guy.
Yeah, man, that sucks. That sucks to have to be down with the vid at any point. So how many first round grades do you think Osford has on this tackle class? Because that's probably the thing that they're gonna. I bet it goes.
Let me pull up a big board and I'll tell you.
Yeah, I mean, look, you can run off at least Alt, at least Fashanu, at least Fuaga. Then you get into Amarius Mims out of Georgia.
Tyler Guyton has a first round grade.
Tyler Guyton most likely has one. Maybe Graham Barton potentially. I mean, that's 6 out of Duke. Jordan Morgan potentially, who Kyle Odegaard followed up with after we talked to him in the combine. Cardinals have talked to him. I've got 7 on my hand right now. I'm just counting on my hand.
JC Latham out of Alabama. That's Bama. 8. Yeah, I mean, you could talk yourself into like shit, man. If you take a tackle, a fringe first round tackle, or a high second round tackle at 27, no one's going to complain about that. Like if you have a tackle that's graded 35th overall, 32nd overall, and you want to make sure you get them and you take them at 27 because it's a premium position, I'm not going to have an issue with that. Like, what you don't want to do is pass and then wait to 35 and then that tackle not be there. And then you're really in trouble. So I'm not saying reach, but this is the year. How many times have we said this, Bo, for the past 6 months? When everybody's clamoring, this defense is horrendous. I can't watch this unit. It's so bad. It has no talent. All that to say, lean into the strength of the draft. And it's strong in 3 positions. And you don't need one of them: quarterback, receiver, tackle. You just, like, no one's going to remember your team needs 5 years from now if Marvin Harrison Jr. and JC Latham or Tyler Guyton are ass kickers for you and cornerstone players on your roster. Oh yeah, but we took a corner at 27 because we really didn't have much at that position group, and we took a small school kid, or we took TJ Tampa. And that's not to dog TJ Tampa. I'm just saying you gotta go where the draft leads you, and this draft is so rich in those 2 positions.
Was it EBEG saying Bo's tackle list does not have an NFL left tackle on it? What are we talking about here?
A lot of
Joe Alt's not an NFL left tackle. Fuaga out of Oregon State, that mammoth of a man, he's not a starting caliber left tackle. I find that hard to believe. Tyler Guyton isn't going to be a starting left tackle in the NFL. I just I disagree with that wholeheartedly.
Yeah, it's hard to believe. You know what else is hard to believe? Some of these prices right now for Suns Lakers at the Footprint Center for Sunday on Game Time. So I saw Suns Lakers on Game Time back in, I believe, November. Got tremendous seats with our friends at Game Time using what I think is one of the best features on there, the Flash deal, which right now there's Flash deals up and down. You can sit courtside, row 2 basically, so almost courtside, under $1,000 for Suns Lakers. I don't know. You guys in the mood to watch some Hall of
Damn,
Famers?
dude.
LeBron James, Kevin Durant. Ever heard
Throwing
of
a
him?
G down and go to Suns game.
$1,000 to sit courtside in an NBA game. I feel like that's pretty solid. What
Yeah, it's a good deal. I'm still not taking it. What else you got?
We got some big. Have you seen some of these super chats? We got some big spenders in the chat. How dare you interrupt my read? How dare you? Here, I'm going to help people out.
Yeah.
If you're worried about the price tag for courtside seats being, I don't know, $900, how about $20 off of that on top of it with your first purchase on the Game Time app with bonus code PHNX? Again, $20 off your first purchase, or if you're pinching pennies, right? You can go spring training right around the corner, apply that. It might cover your whole ticket on Game Time. Coyotes, not red hot right now, could get tickets on the cheap, but regardless of what you do, check out Game Time. Plus, we got like Blink-182 coming to town, Avril Lavigne, like the best of the early 2000s is apparently making its way to Phoenix, and you can get hooked up with our friends at Game Time right now. Download the app, create an account, use the bonus code PHNX. Tell them PHNX Cardinals sent you $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed.
You see, I got $1,000 tickets to see Avril Lavigne. I'm going to be front row with when she's doing Skater Boy.
I don't
Skater Boy going. I'm going to be in the front row because of the Game Time.
It's a good deal. On here ASAP.
Arizona Lottery is going to help you get some of those pricey tickets. Obviously, you're still getting an awesome deal from Game Time, but what Arizona Lottery also has is just an incredible promotion. It's fun too. Like, it's just not scratching a card any longer. You can do that. You can go OG way. Just get yourself your lucky nickel and scratch off, and you going up to $50,000. You got 3 Arizona themed tickets out there, one featuring Picacho Peak, Monument Valley, and of course our beloved Camelback Mountain. But also you can just head to azadventure.com and you can participate in a very fun geolocated adventure, 10 destinations across the state from Flagstaff to Yuma. You just log on to azadventure.com. You got details and directions, and you just check in at destinations for coordinates on the website, or enter tickets online for a chance to win $1 million in cash and other Arizona travel prizes. Arizona Lottery is not just about playing games. It's about just winning prizes and also giving back to its state and its communities. Visit azadventure.com for more information on how you can take an adventure for a chance to win $1 million in cash and Arizona travel prizes.
Everybody's saying I must roll deep. I must have gotten a raise. Listen, I'm not saying I am buying courtside seats to Suns Lakers, but if somebody were to tell me how much do you think courtside seats are for Suns Lakers, because here's what I will say. I paid $500 total for 2 seats in the upper deck during the playing game. So you're telling me that I can be courtside for obviously more than that, but I don't feel like too much more. I think that's pretty good, especially like we're in the second half, baby. It's go time. Suns Lakers prime for, I think, a Western Conference final showdown, hopefully, in a couple of months. But I mean, you guys that's fine. You know, dog on me and the way I live my life, and Bo's drinking my Capri Suns. And now I'm set up for more disappointment as the New England Patriots. It's that time of the offseason where people are haters and they want to merge our Marvin with the New England Patriots and saying that's the right play for the Patriots, Bo.
Yeah. I just saw a snippet from Mina Kimes' podcast, her and Phil Yates, who we talked to on Radio Rose, just dialed in. They were just trying to make an educated guess on what the New England Patriots are going to do. But at the end of the day, you truly don't know, because you don't know who's calling the shots really in New England right now. I mean, they've got a new head coach in Gerard Mayo, and then they've got, their long history of winning, and they're trying to probably merge the two together. And I don't know if that's going to sync up. Could be like oil and water, but like, are they going to adopt most NFL front offices' philosophies? And in the rebuild, how are they going to approach that? And, we got Daniel Jeremiah yesterday. he's doing his mock draft. He's got the Pats taking Marvin Harrison Jr. because he thinks that they could go with a veteran quarterback in free agency potentially, or trade for a Justin Fields. And those are the options, right? Could they get a Russell Wilson? Could they get Justin Fields?
Yeah.
And then is that going to be enough to get the ball to Marvin Harrison Jr.? If you're skeptical about that, you absolutely should be. I just don't think it's the right way to rebuild. And I think Mina and Field also, they echoed that. I mean, what we've been saying for a long time. I mean, it's either you take a quarterback, the third best quarterback on the board, or you trade down. That's the best way to really kickstart your rebuild.
And I also think I've seen a number of people recently come out and say Malik Neighbors is almost an equal with Marvin Harrison Jr. Now, I don't believe that at all. I think Neighbors has shortcomings just based on his physical attributes. He's almost 4 inches shorter than Marvin. So that he's never going to make that up, before he gets drafted, like before they play actual games, and he can play bigger like he did at LSU. So if there are people out there that are saying, well, Neighbors and Marvin are almost 1A and 1B, and you can say same thing about Alu Fashanu and Joe Alt. If you're the Patriots and you decide, you know what, we don't love Jaden Daniels for whatever reason, you're going to try to trade down and just say, you know what, I'll take Neighbors if he's available. I'll take Alt if he's available. I'll take Fashanu if he's available. Like that's what New England should do. And I think at the end of the day, cards on the table, I think that's what they're going to do. We're going to be on pins and needles. Are they going to sign a free agent quarterback? What's going on here? Russell Wilson. Like, if they sit out of free agency quarterback wise and they sign fringe starters, then we know what's going down with Jaden Daniels. But even if they sign a Russell Wilson, if he's available, a Ryan Tannehill, a Kirk Cousins, or whatever, I still think there's a good chance they trade out of that pick. I think that pick is for sale. That roster is so depleted. Like, Austin Ford sat in a room last year and looked at the Cardinals roster and was just like, gut, start over, rebuild. You would often say this, rip it from the studs, right? Mm-hmm. I think that's what the Patriots are going to do. And the only outlier to that is, well, if we can get our franchise quarterback, we're going to do that. And I thought it was interesting. Somebody, this is not good podcasting, but somebody mentioned you and I in a comment yesterday late in the day. Basically, the Patriots GM, his father, I believe, was a general manager. Wolf, is that his name? Was it Elliot Wolf? I can't remember. And basically, his philosophy was like basically dogged on the idea of taking a receiver early, and said that if you don't have a quarterback, and I'll find it here in a second, but if you don't have a quarterback, you have nothing as a franchise. And if he took anything from his father and the roster construction, the team building, they are not taking a receiver at 3. And let me see if I can find it.
You're going to turn your back on your father? Is that what you're going to do?
I wouldn't. Is
that the first major move you're going to make as a GM? Is you're going to immediately just turn your back on your father? You don't want to do that, New England Patriots.
No, you're gonna. How would you justify it at family dinners and gatherings if it didn't work out?
Oh, my son, you said GM for the Patriots? No, I have no son. Because one, the Patriots aren't a real football team because they don't have a quarterback.
Yes, it was Elliot Wolf. So it's Elliot Wolf's father basically came out and trashed the idea of a receiver. Basically said, it's dumb. It's dumb. It's not going to work. You can't throw to yourself. Here it is. So, no, I don't have it. I don't have it.
What the hell happened? Did your computer shut down?
No, it's, you know how Twitter is. It's all over the place. But you can take my word for it. It's
Dov didn't have it. He didn't just copy and paste it from somebody. We didn't have one of those accounts.
Yeah, the aggregate. Okay.
We got it. Do we think we got it again?
So basically, Elliot Wolf's dad. Here it is. Here's the quote.
Is his name Wolf?
Yes, because he drafted quarterbacks in Green Bay.
I love
when
how
it
you
comes
say
to
Wolf.
this draft
Wolf.
in the Patriots. I also understand this. You can't go anywhere these days without someone taking that snap from center, said the elder Wolf. That's the most important position in the game. If the apple doesn't fall far from the tree, and given their shared football philosophy, it's easy to say it doesn't. Elliot Wolf's first action of team building as the de facto GM of the Patriots could very well be selecting the quarterback with the 3rd overall pick. This is from Ron Wolf, so that's his dad. What are you going to do? take a wide receiver, questioning Ron Wolf, you have to have someone to throw him the ball. That came from Ron Wolf, Elliot Wolf's father, who is the GM of the Patriots, basically saying, son, I'm going to disown you if you take Marvin. You will not be invited to Thanksgiving this year. We're all going to laugh at you when you got Bailey Zappi trying to complete passes to Marvin Harrison Jr.
Or the third team that, took Russell Wilson in, the Seahawks cast him off, and now the Broncos are going to cast him off. And, the Patriots are going to be the other naive team that thinks that he can get it done and return to Russ cooking status, where it's unlikely to happen, even if he had a Marvin Harrison Jr., because, their offensive line is going to be in shambles and it's going to have to be rebuilt as Trent Brown leaves that organization. And we'll see what happens with was it Owenu? And then, I mean, they're a mess, especially on the offensive side of football, and just throwing Maserati Marv in, the parking space of your apartment. It's probably not the best move. So I co-sign with Wolf. And I think a lot of people do. I mean, when you're staring down a rebuild, we've been pounding the table here. I don't know, maybe we need to have a DNA test. Is Ron Wolf my dad? Because I think that you should take a quarterback as well. Because if you don't have a quarterback, what the hell are you doing?
We've talked about this. It almost mirrors last year's conversation with Will Anderson Jr.
Yes.
And he plays edge rusher.
Yeah.
And we sat on the show and we're like, we would love Will Anderson Jr. And then you talk it out and you're like, God, the Cardinals have nothing and they have to start over and they have no good players and we need to trade down. When you watch Mina Kimes on that podcast, and I've seen this a lot with Patriot players and then or Patriot media and then subsequently members of the fandom, where the conversation starts off with, wouldn't it be great to have Marvin? We've never had a great receiver and blah, 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 blah. And then they start talking about it into reality. And then you're just like, we're not ready for this. We can't support this at all. This is not a good idea at all. Again, the elements, the lack of quarterback, the roster construction, like Marvin Harrison Jr. is not going to prohibit you from going 3-14 and getting embarrassed. Yeah. It's just not.
Watch film of Larry Fitzgerald from 2000.
Great point.
4 through to 2008, and then from 2010 to about 2013. And the quarterbacks that were throwing on the football, like he still made plays, right? He's still like he's with that ham sandwich platter of quarterbacks that they paraded.
That was in a dome.
And it was in a dome, right? You weren't going against the elements, and you weren't going against the Jets defense or the Dolphins defense and the Bills. I mean, he's going to put up numbers. He's going to cruise to 1,000 yards receiving, but everything else is going to be just excruciating to watch. If you've got just some retread veteran quarterback, or you bring back one of these clown show quarterbacks that you had in the room last year, or you try to outsmart everybody and take Bo Nix in the second round, he'll be throwing Marvin Harrison Jr. ground balls like my dad did in the backyard when I was growing up.
His noodle arm. Cardinals are in a really good spot. We say that every show, but it bears repeating. This team is going to get better. They're going to fill a need. They're going to get a good player, and they're probably going to get additional assets in the process. But we're going to be at the combine a week from today, and coaches and general managers are going to talk, and we're going to get further insight into this. And I think we're laying the foundation for MHJ to be an Arizona Cardinal, and it's going to be a great thing, regardless of when it happens. BetMGM's here to be a great thing for you as you dabble on the betting scene. Bet 5, get 150 instantly. So I mentioned Lakers Suns this weekend. Who you got? Well, if you want to place a 5 spot on either team on a standard odds price wager with our friends at BetMGM, and you're a new customer, you're going to get hooked up with 150 in bonus bets, regardless of the outcome of your wager. So a 5 spot, Suns or Lakers, it's going to get you hooked up. And again, you can bet on NBA, you can bet on NHL, whatever you want to do. Just make sure you're doing it with our friends at BetMGM. Sign up with BetMGM. Use that bonus code PHNX. Tell them PHNX Cardinals sent you. Place your first BetMGM Sportsbook wager through the app on your mobile device, or you can do it. I love doing this. Pull it up, betmgm.com on my desktop here. I can look at everything, props, whatever you want to do it with BetMGM. 5 spot gets you 150 in additional winnings, regardless of the outcome of your wager. Check out the show notes for full details. Now listen to my guy Damon Dog talk about it in the disclaimer.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Available in the U.S. Call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369-NEW York. Call 1-800-327-5050 Massachusetts. 21 plus to wager. Please gamble responsibly. Call 1-800-NEXT-STEP Arizona. 1-800-BETS-OFF Iowa. 1-800-270-7117 for confidential help Michigan. 1-800-981-0023 Puerto Rico in partnership with Kansas Crossing Casino and Hotel. Visit BetMGM.com for terms. This promotional offer is not available in New York, Nevada, Ontario, or Puerto Rico.
Now I know how you can throw a K down on some Suns tickets. It's the BetMGM app. You've built your stack over there and you're just throwing cash around. Are you taking the Benz to the Suns game later this week, or is it the Beamer? Just let me know. Also, good night out. Gila River Resorts and Casinos. That's right. You don't have to have $1,000 to go have some fun over at Gila River Resorts and Casinos. You can go make $1,000, even more so. It's an unbelievable, authentic, and immersive experience. We love what's going on as far as our friends over at Gila River Resorts and Casinos. We did our watch parties there, the Wild Horse Pass. It was fantastic. It was the best sports book in all the land. We just spent a week in Vegas. I would have rather just driven 10, 20 minutes down the road to one of Gila's resorts, casinos out there. It has state-of-the-art gaming floors. They got TVs to watch all the sports you can take, plus great food, whether you're just trying to get a quick bite to eat, or maybe get something a little bit nicer. How about Shula's Steakhouse? Guy who went, 14-0 in the regular season, the undefeated season. If it's good enough to go undefeated in the NFL, he's got great steak as well. Check out Shula's Steakhouse at Gila River Resorts and Casinos. Head to Gila River Resorts and Casinos and let them show you what the next level is all about. You do you at Gila River Resorts and Casinos. Visit playGila.com for more details. That's Gila with a G.
Zona Tucson 93. Johnny Bo, is there going to be a draft party? Yes, there is. Zona Tucson 93. We don't have a location yet. We're going to have that hopefully within the next month on this podcast. We'll debut that sometime probably around free agency. We're going to get it synced up with our GM Saul Bookman. It could be at Gila River, could be at one of the other locations of our many proud partners. It's going to be somewhere here in the Valley, accessible for everybody. And it's going to be Thursday night of round 1 of the NFL draft. And then myself, Bo Brack, Damon Dog, hopefully our guy Britton Golden, who will be with us at the Combine next week. We're going to have wall-to-wall coverage like we did last year, live for the entirety of round 2. And then we're going to have coverage on day 3 that Saturday. So your premier Arizona Cardinal coverage applies to the NFL draft, and it starts with the biggest, baddest draft party this side of the Valley.
We've got the NFL draft, obviously, is a huge paramount for the Arizona Cardinals, pivotal as far as their offseason and the rebuild goes, double-digit picks and 2 in the first round. But there's a lot of work to be done between now and then, and NFL free agency is less than a month away. March 13th, tampering window opens up. We expect the Arizona Cardinals to be very busy during that time, and it starts with them trying to rebuild that defense, Johnny. It was a defense that I think Nick Rawlis put in position to compete at times with his calls, but talent disparity was on full display. It felt like each and every week. And I think we should give a free agent target each on what we think the Arizona Cardinals could do to rebuild that defense and supplement it through free agency.
I think you and I are on the same page. You know, the premier defensive ends are going to get tagged, and then probably going to go for a mid-tier guy, a reclamation project. Hopefully you see growth from Zaven Collins in his second year playing the position, B.J. Ojulari, and then, of course, you have the NFL draft. And I think both of our picks support that. I'm happy to go first, and I'm happy to wind the clocks back to 2020 when Monty Ossenford was in New England. And the Cardinals took a certain pass rusher the Patriots took a certain pass rusher out of Michigan, who happens to be a free agent out of New England. It's Josh Uche, who is coming off a relatively mediocre season in 2023, just 3 sacks. But how about 2022? 11.5 sacks. He wasn't hurt this year. He played, but let's be frank. When did the Patriots ever have the lead? When did it ever seem like an apropos time to be able to pin your ears back, rush the passer? Supremely gifted player that obviously has a high ceiling. If he was a second-round pick out of the Big Ten once upon a time, wasn't a hardball recruit. But I think at the end of the day, prime position to say, 25 years old, could we bring him in on a 2-year deal with some guaranteed money up front to come say, okay, go compete with Zaven. Go compete with B.J. Ojulari. Be part of that rotation that we always hear about, Bo, where it's 8 to 10 guys deep, So when Brian Burns is saying, I want $30 million a year, this is the kind of move I could see the Cardinals pivoting to, especially if Austin Ford really liked his tape, and I have no idea, coming out of Michigan. I think the money needs to be spent. The high dollar amount on 1 to 2 singular players need to be spent on defensive tackle. I think you can be a little bit more particular at edge rusher, given the numbers that you have coming back.
If you just throw gobs of cash at a defensive tackle or an interior defensive lineman, and then you have a savvy approach to the edges, I think that you could rebuild this thing, like you said, with that big investment is your anchor and part of that defensive line rotation, and then supplement it with these edges. And I love it. I mean, I think Uche is probably a more realistic option than saying go out there and get a former first round pick in Chase Young, who's going to probably command more than he deserves with his inconsistent start to his career, or the Burnses of the world. Obviously those are big names that you would love to see get after the quarterback for the Cardinals, but I think they'll be playing in this sandbox more realistically. And that's why I went to South Beach, Miami, a player that, Damon Dog doesn't know if the Miami Dolphins will let walk because he's so versatile and so made an impact for the Fins defense last year. It's Andrew Van Ginkel, 28-year-old edge who had 6 sacks last year, 32 hurries, and broke up 8 passes. He had 8 passes defended, whether it's knocking it down. I know he had a pick 6 as well. He was fantastic in coverage. I think this is the versatile type player that Nick Rawlis and Jonathan Gannon covet. I don't think he's going to break the bank. Now we'll see, what if Miami decides to move off of some other players and retain a guy like Van Ginkel. But I think he would be perfect for Nick Rawlis' defense next year.
This is like when you say, I want a Van Ginkel, and then we have a Van Ginkel at home, and it's Dennis Gardeck. Am I allowed to say that?
Just because he's white and has long hair?
No, because he has a number in the 40s. That's what it makes me think of. A pass rusher with a number in the 40s. No.
Wouldn't that be great if you had Gardeck at 42, and then you've got Van Ginkel, or I'm sorry, what is Gardeck? We're at 45?
Yeah.
You got Van Ginkel at 43, and then just the long hair bros?
I think Gardeck can put up similar numbers to that next year. No. You don't think so?
I mean, he had a ton of opportunities last year. But Van Ginkel, I think, consistently did it in as far as coverage goes. And you see their outside linebackers drop back in coverage.
It's true.
We saw Gardeck in coverage, and it's not like when he's in coverage on special teams. It's special, to say the least.
Van Ginkel is a much better player out in space. And again,
listen to this game against Dallas that he had.
Okay.
He had 9 total pressures, and he had 5 hurries and 2 sacks. I mean, he was just all over the place, and 5 tackles. I mean, I think he was a guy that would drop back every once in a while. He'd play a little slot. I think that he's somebody that they like, the versatility, the violence that he plays with. And I think the Cardinals, they like Dennis Gardeck, but I think that this is, if you like Dennis Gardeck, you're going to love Andrew Van Ginkel.
What's happening in Miami? They lose Vic Fangio, obviously. We know why that happened, but Van Ginkel is a key contributor. He's hitting the market. Christian Wilkins is going to hit the market. Miami's defense can be pretty easy to fade next year, especially they lost their supremely gifted pass rusher to injury this year. The kid the Cardinals passed on for Zaven Collins out of Miami. But I'm with the chat. I think Zaven Collins, they have promise in. They still feel like he can turn into something. And I think, can Van Ginkel, can he mirror those numbers? Can Zaven mirror those numbers? I have a hard time believing Zaven is going to regress next year. I think he's going to be better. But I also think whether it's Van Ginkel or, the kid out of New England I mentioned, Uche, they need some quality spot starters here and there. They need guys. You're not going to get an ace, right? You're not going to get a Josh Allen, but can you get a couple relief pitchers to come in and help you in the 3rd and 4th quarter, force Matthew Stafford off the field and get a sack in a key spot? I think I know they care much more about total team sacks compared to one guy having 20 sacks a la Chandler Jones. So I'm fine with any of this. I think, good.
You got to raise the floor. You got to raise the floor as far as the productivity from your edge.
And Victor Zumikagis of the world, those guys are probably just not going to be around.
Yeah. But if you've got guys that in their career have put up numbers before and can do it again, and as you said, if Monty looks at the tape and thinks that Uche can turn back the clock just only a season removed from a real solid season. And Van Ginkel can continue to do what he does. Like, those are upgrades, but those are upgrades with the qualifier of you got to have some guys as far as the interior of the defensive line that are going to be disruptive and create pass rush lanes for these guys.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree. Like, none of this matters if they don't get defensive linemen, true defensive tackles. And who knows? I mean, Jalen Blair saying Miami doesn't have any money. They're $58 million over the cap, and they've got to sign Tua. Well, then Christian Wilkins needs to be an Arizona Cardinal if that's the case. Eddie's saying I think we go after Chase Young, Clowney on prove it mercenary deals. I think both those guys probably don't fit what they want to do from a locker room individual standpoint. And that's not to knock them as people, but like Chase Young basically coasted large portions of the NFC playoffs. Like, and he's going to be your marquee signing at edge rusher. And Jadeveon Clowney's pretty old. And I would think he'd want to go back to Baltimore, chase another ring. I think if you can find a player in their mid-20s on a smaller deal, I say this all the time, it's a broken record, like find the Elder Froholt at pass rusher, find the Elder Froholt at cornerback.
They need to find it in the draft too. Like,
they do, for sure.
As much as they can help in free agency and set them up for success with these double-digit picks, and it's not a great pass rush draft, but I think if you can find a diamond in the rough, like, do that. Like, get these players that are now hitting free agency, find your own, draft and develop them, pair them with, a BJ Ujulari, who you hope takes a step. As you said, Zaven Collins, you hope he takes a step as well. But it's all going to be, they need more guys that are going to make a down-to-down impact consistently than they got from last year's effort.
As crazy as it sounds, because they went so long without sacks this year, I don't think they view their pass rush situation as dire as maybe we do, or the public does.
They have one sack in 6 games over their final 6 games.
I know.
That was bad.
But
Jalen Blair saying Grenard. I had Grenard as I think the first guy I had mentioned as far as us doing this on a weekly basis. I had Jonathan Grenard from the Texans. I think he had 12.5 sacks. He's a big time impact maker. And I think I was looking at a tier below. I think like there's the top tier, obviously, your Brian Burns of the world. And then you get, the Jonathan Grenards, and then you get to, your Uches and Van Ginkels.
Yeah. They need to play in every sandbox, and then they go through the motions of, is this player interested? Do we have the money to do this? Because all of these players we're mentioning respectfully would be upgrades for the Cardinal roster. Maybe not individual upgrades over like a BJ Ojulari, hopefully in a year 2 pop year, but people that can help. It's such a long season. And I think that's kind of what gets lost in the free agency hype of let's go sign X player for X amount of dollars. The Cardinals had no depth over 17 weeks in their front seven. Their front seven, it was laughably thin by the end of the year. Like, that can't happen again. That's irresponsible, because we all believe that the Cardinals are going to be in a point of contention in the NFC playoffs to try to get back to the postseason for the first time since 2021. You can't do that with how you built your front seven last year. You need to go 8 to 10 deep with these defensive linemen to be able to say, okay, X players out this week, we got somebody, plug and play, because those teams in the NFC West are going, especially Mike McDonald now with Geno Smith, being they're trying to run you over. And the Cardinals just don't have the depth up front right now to stop anybody's run game. We saw it. McCaffrey and the Rams did whatever they wanted on the ground against the Cardinals. Like, you got to start working to combat that a little bit.
Yeah, it's raising the floor as far as their defensive front goes. Let's raise the floor as far as your home flooring needs go with our friends over at Empire Today. We love Empire Today. We can help you start by saving $350 off new floors. That's carpeting, that's flooring on your flooring needs in your home, your condo, wherever it may be. Check out Empire Today. Check out their virtual floor designer. It's quick, it's easy, it's convenient. You can see what the floors look like in your dwelling. It's that simple. Just log on to empiretoday.com/PHNX. You'll start to save immediately $350. Schedule that free in-home estimate. And all listeners receive, and it's exclusive to PHNX listeners, $350 off when they use that promo code PHNX. Restrictions apply. See empiretoday.com/PHNX for more details.
You want the insight for the Arizona Cardinals? You tune into this podcast. You want to be part of the inner circle and get their tremendous insight. You head on over to Circle K, the Circle K app today. Why? Because it's America's thirst stop. Because of the free new membership program you can't get anywhere else, hooking you up, saving you 25 cents per gallon on your first count of 5 fill-ups and save 3 cents per gallon every single day. And on top of that, you're going to get a 6 free selection on Circle K products like pizza, coffee, ice cold fountain drinks, and more. It's my go-to every single day for a plethora of reasons, including to save money. It's Circle K by becoming a member of the Inner Circle. Download that Circle K app today. Terms and conditions apply at participating locations. Visit CircleK.com for more details. Super chat from Curtis. Thank you so much. $2. What happened to John Gaines, Bo? Well, he got hurt and he was out for the year. And now he's, I would imagine, coming back trying to fight for a roster spot.
Yeah, he tore his ACL. He's a 4th-round pick, and he was a guy that I think had a role as backup interior offensive depth. He was backup center and probably would have gotten a shot at left guard if he had stayed healthy enough. He's been around the organization, and I think he was rehabbing that knee as late as the regular season finale, and looking forward towards his sophomore season where he hopefully would stay healthy. But he was the most athletically tested guard or offensive lineman at the combine last year. And I think that the team likes him a lot, but they need to see, what he looks like on grass in the regular season to really make a true determination if he's somebody that they're moving forward with, if he's a guy that is starting caliber at the guard or center position. But as of right now, he's just somebody that, they liked from their draft class, and we'll continue to see what he's all about come as early as, who knows, maybe April, May. We'll see what his timeline is.
Yeah, I mean, there's going to be a lot of competition at those guard spots, and there should be after last year, a little bit of a turnstile, and we all hoped that Gaines was going to play, and he would have played at some point last year. I couldn't tell you how he would have done, but they free agency, the draft, there's going to be new bodies inserted, and it's going to be the best man wins in that position group. A lot of new faces in the Cardinals front office, Bo Brack, as I think really the final piece has moved on from the prior regime in which they picked players in both free agency and the draft.
Yeah, Jonathan Jones reported from CBS Sports that the Cardinals parted ways with VP of Player Personnel Quentin Harrison. If you remember, Harris was the co-interim GM when Steve Keim unceremoniously took a leave of absence and ended up resigning. Harris stayed with the organization as A-Dub. Adrian Wilson ended up moving on to the Carolina Panthers. But Harris had been Arizona's scouting department for 16 years. He was a respected personnel guy, according to Jones. Harris had previously interviewed with the Giants and the GMs. Yeah, there's the tweet from Jones. And Quentin Harris is somebody that is outlined here, been with the organization for a long, long time. And I think that the Cardinals did right by him. If he wanted to stay around last season, they let him stay around and do his job, and now have mutually parted ways here, and the transition continues. And one of the bigger names from the Cardinals organization at this time last year in Harris is no longer with the club any longer.
Yeah, I mean, the Cardinals, Austin Ford was going to call shots. And Dave Sear was a major player in Detroit, and Dave Sear is set up to be a GM in waiting. And who knows, Bonnie Austin Ford has success. Is he a president of the Cardinals at some point? Like, anytime you get an exterior set of eyes, which is what the Cardinals needed, let's not make any mistake about it, that unfortunately there's going to be some turnover and some change. And as people, you sympathize because everybody goes through this in your professional work environment. There's turnover and there's layoffs or there's mutual parting ways. But here's the end situation is Steve Keim and his gross negligence signing players, drafting players, I think cost a lot of people their job. And so as a result, you saw Adrian Wilson say, you know what, I'm going to have better opportunities elsewhere. And now Quentin Harris, I don't know if he was a lame duck or not in his role this year, but like he was not helped by Steve Keim. And so Monty Austin Ford, the minute he was brought in, and that's why we commended Michael Bidwell at the time. Yeah. The minute they decided to go out and get somebody externally, the Cardinals were saying the way we do things, fair or not, is wrong. And that's not to say, I'm sure Quentin Harris pushed back against Steve Keim more times than not. I'm sure, hopefully Adrian Wilson had a difference of opinion with Steve Keim, even though they were buddies. But like it or not, you're associated to that regime. You're associated with the old way of doing things. And that old way of doing things lost you a lot of games. Yeah. And you had a roster that was bottom 3 in the NFL, if not worse. And so they're doing things differently now.
Yeah. And look, the change is for the better, and you wish nothing but the best for Quentin Harris.
Absolutely.
And a lot of good years spent within this organization. But as you said, like 16 years in that building, outside of this past season, all of them working underneath a guy that, pretty much torpedoed this franchise and put them into a really tough spot by the end of it. And guilty by association, call it fair or unfair. I think that this is Quentin Harris has had interviews. He's going to find another job, and
he'll
that's
be
good.
in the NFL.
That's good
Absolutely.
for him. He'll remain in the NFL, no doubt about it. Well said. If you're intrigued as far as what's going on around the league, around this team, of course, you want to become a diehard. We're talking about it all day long, even outside of the show chat. We're in the member Discord. The way to access that, you got to become a diehard today. It's the exclusive member Discord. Also, you get the full access to GoPHNX.com. Every single article, not just the free ones, but the ones behind a little bit of a paywall, but that we make exclusive for our diehards. Check it out for yourself. Become a diehard today before the draft party. Get in now. And we appreciate it. You get your free swag for the year. You can get a free t-shirt, free hat, whatever you decide you want from PHNX Locker. Become a diehard today. Continue your Cardinal fandom with us here at PHNX. You won't regret it. We love it. Make sure you like this video. Does wonders for us. Like this video, leave a comment below about any of the topics that we discussed. Make sure you're following Johnny Damon Dog on Twitter, myself as well, and at PHNX_Cardinals. Other than that, anything else before we get you out to your Thursday?
Yeah, I mean, we're fired up about next week's combine coverage. No better time to become a diehard, as Bo mentioned, for that insight that you can't get anywhere else. Do us a favor, subscribe to PHNX Sports. Subscribe to PHNX Cardinals. Leave a review for your boys if you would be so kind. And we're getting closer. I feel like we're 2 days away from the start of the floodgates opening. Like, I know I've been saying this for like a week now. When we get to the combine next week, or maybe before, it's balls to the wall. NFL news hits the haywire like never before for about 2.5 months. So rest up now, hydrate, and be ready with your premier Arizona Cardinal podcast. For Damon Dog, Bo Brack, I'm Johnny Venerable. We're back on a Thursday. Peace.
We all silly like the mayor.